This is a sunroom job. All I've done so far is peel that trim off. It was a white trim all the way around it. All this is going to be enclosed. That door is coming to here. Those two window slots are getting enclosed and going to be put right here. So the goal today is about 1.5 inch to 2 inch grade on this slab. You can see it there. I'm going to level the slab out. I'm going to put a subfloor in to match up with the concrete in the house. Angle the floor out and then frame this wall up and put house wrap on it. That is the goal for today, and it's supposed to be raining all day, so I've already set this up yesterday. Hopefully we'll be done with the floor by lunch. I'm going to start. I've already went around and measured here all the way around, so I'm going to go ahead and put those outside boards in, this board and then a couple of the sections, and then we're going to level it up and then I'll add the rest. I may actually go ahead and build the whole thing and then level it all at one time. Probably be the easiest. Like I said, it's got quite a large grade, so out here I'll probably have a whole 2x4 underneath it in order to get it to grade. It'll be an interesting job, but I'm going to take you through from beginning to end. Alright, so I got the outside framed. One thing you need to make sure of, especially when you're matching up, you're going to have 7/16 OSB on the outside of this. So you need to make sure your wall lines up with that. That way when you put your OSB on, you're flush with the existing side of the house. So just keep that in mind. Whatever sheathing you're working with on the outside of the house, when you're adding in, make sure your wall joist is going to line up with it. Basically, I just framed all the way around. This has to be treated because it is up against the concrete. That splice there. These are usually 22 degrees, 22 and a half, half of 45 is what most of these little sections like that on the outside of houses, those are pretty standard, 22 and a half. So I just mitered those. Mitered this in and did the same thing here that I did on the other side. So now I'm going to line up every 16 inches on center and put studs all the way down through here. And I'll come back when I get all that in, and then we will level it. Alright, so I got a portion of them laid. These are pretty easy. I'll show you a little trick, because it's easy on the straight sections. When you get to there is when it gets a little difficult. It's kind of hard to mark where your 16 centers are going down this way. So get your straight side, mark it 16 center, so your red mark on your measuring tape, every red point, put a line. Show you what I'm talking about. If you look down through there, each one of those bright reds is a 16. And you put you a pencil mark at each one. So that gives you where you need to center your board on this side. On that side, what you can do is cut you a 14.5 inch board, which is the span between two 16-inch centers on a 2x4, or any 2x product. And use that as a spacer. So as long as that side's straight and your starting point is straight, and I'm assuming this wall is straight, you use this on this side as your template all the way down through. And this really comes in handy when you get to this point where you've got an angle. So then you just line your measuring tape up with your pencil mark down there. look at your high side. It's kind of a guessing game. I've already messed up one. This is 93.5. And meeting up against this, you're going to cut this angle at a 45. So 93.5 is what my measurement's going to be at a 45-degree angle, which will line it up with this. I'll nail this in. Then I just take my template, put it on the next one, and do the same thing. And that'll help me get the spans going up against here and still keeping my 16 centers all the way down through there. So that little template board will save you a lot of headache. And if this side's off, just cut you 2 of those, and that'll give you 16 centers. So even if you're off on your sides, when you get going down through there, you may have to cut your sheathing or your subfloor odd on the ends, but you will have 16 centers down through the straight stretch. So, little tip. Alright, so I got it framed. Went around and used a ram set. It was a 2x4 high, so it was 1.5 inches out. And used the ram set. Drive concrete nails in every other span down through here. That'll keep this floor from moving. And then I used treated lumber for my spacers. This floor was all kinds of jacked up, so I thought about buying 2x6s and cutting the whole entire span to fit, but every one would be a special cut because the floor is all over. So I did use ram sets to hold these in, so these aren't going to move. You can see there, and then I put wood shims underneath them. Once I glue the subfloor down and nail it to this, I shouldn't have any problems with squeaking. But that is something you need to contend with. Anytime you put spacers like this, if you don't ram set them and keep them from moving, as weight shifts on the floor, you might start getting squeaks. But I'm essentially doing what they do underneath the house to level out the floor, just at a smaller level. I did have to reset these, as my first starting joist against this wall was off. You usually find out when you lay your first piece of plywood down. If you try to get it square and it's not hitting your joist that you got a nail to for the outside edge, you've got problems. So I just cut them loose and shifted them enough to be on 16 centers. So what I'm going to do first is get some subfloor glue, which comes in these big tubes, and run that down the rafters or the floor joist all the way up and down. Set this piece down and nail it in. And then it's just continually laying this down piece by piece down through here. It'll get more intricate as we get down here, because that's going to be a special cut. But alright, so here it is. Just lay your bead out. No generous with it. In reality, if you're doing it right, you should use almost half a tube on a 4x8 sheet of plywood. You don't want to skimp on it. This is what tightens the floor up. The nails kind of temporarily hold it in. This actually makes it stick to the wood and binds the two together. So don't be cautious with it. Put it on liberally. Alright, so I've got 2 sheets down. Usually you stagger this. It's a full sheet, half sheet to stagger your seams. However, this is only 1 sheet wide, so I'm not going to worry about staggering it. On this up here, the best way I've found over the years to get this, lay your plywood down exactly like it's going to slide into there. So when I get this cut, it'll literally slide and drop in there. So I'll measure my top first. You do have to have an 1/8 inch gap on this. because it does move. So we'll say 18 1/8. We'll measure over 18 1/8. I've already got my pencil mark. We'll measure over 3 studs. 4 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. You notice I've got about 1/2 inch left on the outside edge, so I need to keep that going down through here. I'll just measure up to there, about where it's going to stop, halfway in the middle of that board to right here. Let's say 68 3/4. And all you do on your board is measure from the end of the board into 68 3/4. Put you in pencil mark. Then all you have to do is grab your level and put one end on the pencil mark at 68 1/2, the other one on the pencil mark at 18 1/4, I think is what I had. And just run your line on through there and cut this. And you should be able to just take this and slide it right in to that spot. Alright, these pieces are usually the trickiest ones to cut. Again, what I always do, set your plywood out exactly like it's going to slide in. If you don't do that, you'll have to get to it and figure out which way it's got to set, and you got to flip your measurements around. It's just easier to set it to where when you get done cutting it, you slide it right into place and it falls in. So on a piece like this, we got an angle up there, short piece, section here and a section here. So what I do, got it laid out like it's supposed to go, tongue on the right side, all that good stuff. Grab your tape measure. Trying to do this with one hand's kind of a challenge. Alright, measure from up there to down here. We're right at 71. It's kind of hard to do it with one hand. So our outside measurement where our tongue goes is 71. So get over to your tongue side. Measure 71. Put you a pencil mark up there. So there's your first side. Now, this isn't 48 from there over. It's not a full piece wide. Get your shortest spot. That's the furthest out. You got to give yourself a little bit of room. So we're going to go 41 1/2. So that's how wide it is. So measure your 41 1/2, a couple spots here, and go about halfway, and then go up again. And then you got your 41 1/2. You draw you a line, put your level on there, and make you a line this way. So now you got your 2 outside parameters. Now what I would do is measure your top piece. Actually, you need to measure this piece here. So you measure inside to outside. It's right at 49 3/4 from there to there. So now, go on my outside edge, be a mark at 49 3/4. Then put you another mark at 49 3/4 on the other side. You'll see why here in a minute. I measured up 49 3/4. Put a pencil mark here. So now I know that that's level. So now I put my level on here. Grab it. And make me a line from there to there. This is just a reference point. This I'm actually going to cut. And then come over to where you're cutting. Measure this piece, which is right at 16. And while you're here, go ahead and measure from here to here, which is right at 33. That's just a reference point to make sure you're right. So then you come back, you got 16, put your mark there. So there's that piece. Now what's left should match what you measured. So we had 33 inches over there. So now there should be roughly 33 inches from here to our first pencil mark at 71. If we did it right, it should match up. So put it at the 16 mark. And right there, we're right at it. Doesn't have to be exact with subfloor. You've got some wiggle room, but that's how you measure it to get your cutout lines. So now all I'll do is just cut this and cut there and then run down this way. I'll have enough to just slide it in. So little tricks I've learned over the years. If you don't do it this way, you have this board upside down, then you got to remember how to invert everything you measured. So always lay your lumber out in the same direction that it's going in. It'll make your life a lot easier. Alright, so started framing this. All I did was put my top 2x4 in all the way across for my header. That's already got a full header there, so I don't have to worry about putting two 2x4s. It's got a full beam. And then we got my bottom plate that would normally be treated, but I already have treated down below. This isn't sitting on the concrete, so I'm not worried about putting treated on that. So the next part is to lay out your studs. This is what I call stick framing. So normally if you frame a wall, you frame it on the ground and then you just stand it up and it's good. This, I've got to deal with whatever inconsistencies there are all the way down through here, between here and there. I already know the concrete was unlevel. I tried to level that best I can, and I've already seen that this walks about a 1/2 inch from end to end. It walked a 1/2 inch even on the concrete, so I didn't take all that out. So your best thing to do is to stick frame it. You just cut each 2x4. What I do is mark your bottoms at 16. You'll see a pencil mark all the way down through here at 16. Start at one side, that way you've got a good square point to start from when you start hanging your sheathing and your OS or your drywall. And the door is going here. The X is the outside stud, and the inside stud is your jack stud that holds your header up. So this will come, your X will go all the way up top to bottom. You'll nail your header to that, and then your jack is the 0 on the inside of each one, and that will be what sits underneath the header and holds the header up. So I'll put a header here, and what I do is I just mount the bottom, toenail your bottom in. Usually try to go on all 4 sides here, there, and then on both sides, so you hit it from like 4 different angles. If you don't get your angle right, you'll come out like I did. You just shoot it again. I know where the door's going, but the customer hadn't decided where exactly she wants these 2 windows mounted. And there's got to be a space in between it, like that one over there. So I know the measurement, I just don't know how far off the floor she wants the bottom of the window. So I can't. I'm going to go ahead and stick frame this all in, and then once she decides where she wants the window, I'll come back and cut the opening for the window. But that's it. I'll just go down through here, get it somewhat straight. You want them tight, so I'll try to get them as tight as possible. That'll help push this down and try to take any inconsistencies out of the floor. And then you don't want it real tight, but snug. And then once you get your bottom toenailed in, put your level up against it and knock it one way or the other until you get it level, and just nail in the top, same way you do the bottom. Alright. Well, I got all but one sheet of OSB put up. Got the floor in and leveled. I was able to get the customer to decide where she wanted her windows at. Got the door framed up, the header in. Got all this stick framed in. There'll be one window that goes in that slot there. These are the cripples down here that support the bottom of the window frame. I didn't have to put a jack in because this is already a supported beam all the way across, and these outsides act as the jacks. I'm fairly certain I don't have to put those in. I did put the jacks in here, and that's what these are. These insides are cut short and your header actually sits on top of them, and you nail in to your outside stud. So, about ready for framing inspection. I'm going to nail this piece of OSB on the outside, and then after I get the framing inspection done, I'm going to come back and rip these windows, that door out. I got to frame that box in, mount those windows and that door out here. I'm going to go ahead and get this inspected. That way I can go ahead and have the electrician run the electrical. We're moving those switches and that outlet over to this wall, because this is going to become a pocket door that's going to slide in there. So I've got to demo that wall, the outside, so I can put the pocket door in. So, very successful weekend. I got all this done and started at 9. It's right at 3, and I worked through lunch. I didn't stop for lunch, so 6 hours. The only thing left is one sheet of OSB, and I put the house wrap on the outside, which is just that plastic, or that, it's not really plastic. Well, it is, but it's got some other stuff in it as well. I've got to put some house wrap outside on this to protect this from the water. What in the fart nugget is that? Don't see too many of those, not around here.